Today is a beautiful day for science. Indeed, this region here, 3089, has it's had for a while a mixture that seemed to have maintained its high probability of a more significant flare. However, this region has been able to maintain a lesser amount of activity. This was an M-class flare originally when it first was coming onto the disk, and it calmed down to give 3088 the highlight of the show, as it definitely stole the show. But the region's stability remains volatile due to that negative that's hovering between the, or not hovering, but lying between the two positive areas. And this causes a conflict as the polarity, like having magnets struggle to where this loop's going to go. And additionally, any repulsing energy then causes it to be even further restricted. As you see, there are multiple negative umbras in there where they're going to try to steal the energy from one to the other. So as that negative region begins to shrink, where the negative leading, which is typically what we see at this point for this solar cycle, the negative leading will slowly start to take that restructuring or reconfiguring so that the flare activity actually diminishes and it becomes more stabilized. So looking at this in real time here, going for the past 48 hours, we can see as this negative umbra was larger and a little more spread out. We see as the flaring occurs, there have been smaller amount of flares, no large flares. The energy slowly gets taken from this, and this larger umbra gets broken up, and you'll see over here in the negative leading, it starts getting those connections. It starts to take those connections. And as that happens, the region itself becomes more stable. It's not a very fast process unless it erupts very violently like 3088s began to do. But I saw 3888 was going to do that, and I said that I think about 2 or 3 days before we started seeing those more violent reactions, that it's probably not going to happen until it's occulted. And the reason I said that is because the way that the structure was reorganizing and the pace in which it was going, it looked like it was not going to reach a point where it would have to conflict with its entire design. That negative region in the center is going to have to completely up and end itself to take that lead, because it's supposed to be a negative leading region. However, you'll see here this activity is from this negative to this negative over here. So what just happened is two loops collided, and it up and ended the connection to the surface of this negative, and it's forcing the negative here to retake that connection. So we have a reconfiguration where the negative in the leading is taking the connection from where it was. I would say this is actually a very unstable region, but it's not a high potential region. There's a good chance that this could start flaring and have a constant flare activity of maybe a mid-C class with peaks of maybe a low to possibly mid M class based upon its orientation and its size. That's based upon what we've seen thus far since we've been observing the sun on this channel, that is. But I don't expect anything too severe. This doesn't look to have anywhere near the potential that 3088 had, so I wouldn't expect anything even remotely close to that. However, there is a pooling of plasma to the south that I've been watching that seems to be not exactly content either, and there's a lot of hotter plasma that was underneath it, and you can still see the rim of that right here. And I believe that that is eruptible. I believe that there's a chance that we can see a CME happen, which may be associated or not associated to a solar flare, depending if the solar flare plays as a catalyst, causing it to happen sooner than it would. However, for me, more notably, is the development of this new region here we're watching grow, and the first umbra has formed just recently, so this is going to be very interesting and enjoyable to watch. Looking forward to see what this does. Indeed, solar flares are a crucial part to maintain the balance in both the sun and our system. If it wasn't for the solar flares and the CMEs that we have, the Earth would be much more susceptible to galactic or cosmic radiation, or cosmic particles, as it were. The increase of solar activity helps to reduce the amount of cosmic radiation that penetrates the galaxy, or the system rather, solar system. Yeah, so whenever you see a flare or a CME or something of that nature, always look at the bright side of it. Pun intended. That this event is ensuring that, just like the Earth has a magnetosphere, it's ensuring the strength of our solar system's magnetosphere to protect us from the radiation beyond that. Looking at angstrom 171, we can see a little more clearly this plasma pooling, this large amount of plasma that I'm talking about. And you can see how it's pretty well embedded underneath a lot of these loops, which means that if this does erupt, there'll be some flaring associated post the eruption. So we may even have a flare that causes the eruption as a catalyst, and then we have that eruption cause more flaring as a catalyst, into a nice little cycle of activity. It's possible, but for now it seems to be barely moving. It stays rather stable there. There's some volatile action in certain portions, but for the most part it's not showing any imminent signs of eruption. We're seeing some more loop growth from the northern hemisphere, where that region is, well, being born, as it were. Birth of a region is very exciting. And we can see from that last eruption that occurred, it didn't look like it actually went on to be a full CME from what I saw, but we'll take another look at that just in case. Yeah, indeed. This is there's an eruption here, but that plasma seems to just displace over. This is typically what you start to see, a pooling of plasma in the surrounding area where the region forms, And you'll see that a lot of times you get your filaments and even prominences developing around those areas due to this nature, where the corona loops, the magnetic field lines, as they become electromagnetically buoyant, break through the surface, and they sort of push everything to the side. And that's what we're watching here. And you can see here the first umbra has formed, and looks like there might be another one here very shortly. But yeah, very exciting. Birth of a region.